All right. Welcome. This is the third webinar of the Digital Rights Massive Open Online course, which is essentially teaching people about the GDPR and the rights that people got after it went to enforcement. So this webinar is basically explaining people how to get on the course. It's free and open, but the signing in process has proved a bit tricky. So for example, this time is a good time for me to help you get on it. And also, if you've been able to go through some of the course, I'd be happy to answer some questions you have about it, or maybe you have noticed some inaccuracies there, or like actual mistakes. So I'd be very glad to know about these, and anything else that any other ideas that you might have for developing, making this course better. I'd be very pleased to hear them. So basically, like it says here, if you have any questions, you type that address in your browser. That's sli.do/digirights, and there you're able to find our questions, what other people have asked as well. And I'll read out the questions out loud and then try to answer those questions, and I'll type in the answer as well. So the ones who weren't here at the time when you ask the question, they'll be able to see the answer as well, if I can provide it. So yeah, you have any questions, just bring it on. So far, we only have 3 participants, which is Jolie, who is hosting the session, myself, and ISOC Live. So basically, nobody's listening. But people are still perhaps getting on. I actually had a little mistake. I guided them to go to Zoom instead of this live stream session. So I don't know, maybe that might be stalling them. But anyway, okay. Oh, we've got 5 viewers. Oh, thanks for correcting that, Jolie. Oh, well, I'm glad. So, like I said, you have any questions, you can type it here in this address, sli.do/digirights. And while you're typing it, I can maybe tell you a little about the project. So it's essentially GDPR for citizens. And it was, the project was made because it was really only government and corporate employees that were being trained on what the GDPR is and what the rights are. So it was essential that the citizens would also know what rights they had. And that will actually improve applying GDPR if people see that their rights are being violated, for example. And in the course, we also we have made some feedback forms, specifically about the data requests that you make to the organization, and we'd really be very glad to hear some experience about how did you find the process of making the data requests, and that will help all the citizens, especially in European Union, to make sure that our rights are respected now that we finally gained them. So if you've had trouble getting on the course, or if you have any questions about the course itself or the material within, or maybe some general question about GDPR, please ask and I will try to answer it. Okay, there was a question, is there any new case beyond Google? Well, I think the last one I saw, or that was more of a exposure. I don't know if that's gone all the way to the court yet, but there was some news about Facebook being aware that children were using a gaming account and using real money on those games, and like Facebook developers were actually warning the upper management about this, but they ignored these warnings, and now they had been sued by parents. I think there was at least 100 parents in US, and they made this case. It's not strictly about GDPR, but it's about data protection, and for example, in the case, it was shown that these parents didn't even know that the children were able to use the credit card information those parents had stored. So I think that was quite an alarming thing. Okay, there's another question. So how does the GDPR work, or is it compatible with non-European countries? So, okay, basically GDPR is most relevant for people who live in the European Union, who are residents of European Union. But it's relevant also for non-European countries who provide services to European citizens. So, for example, you might have seen, if you've been to Europe since the GDPR came into effect in the end of May, if you try to access, for example, LA Times, you can't get through from a European IP address. They simply haven't bothered to fix their data protection. So they decided to refuse it altogether for European citizens. Just keep the questions coming. I'll try to answer them. So far, so good. I'd be especially glad to hear about the course itself, if you've spotted any mistakes, or if you think that some details should definitely be there. And we're also waiting for proper web access on this, so you could just use it on a browser. At the moment, you have to download the LiveLearn application and use the course through that. But it actually works quite smoothly once you're in there. That's what a dedicated application is good for. And it's also nice to have it on your mobile. You can do it on during your commotion to work and back, for example. The course itself, the material, if you go through all the material in the course, it takes about 7 hours. There's 7 modules, so about 1 hour per module. And it's you might have to wait for a data request though, or an answer to data request, and that's dependent on the organization, not the course. But we try to give you quite a few templates for making those data requests, so you don't have to start from scratch and think about all the lawyer jargon. That's what this course is really for. We've tried to make it as effortless as possible to make those data requests. Okay, while you're still trying to, while you're still making your question, I will make a little poll, just asking you if all of you are on the course already. Okay, you should now be able to see the poll at the sly.do/digirights. Oh, there's a couple of questions. Excellent. Okay, so in Africa, when there is violence, the governments tend to cut internet services. But when we use VPN, especially from Europe, are we protected by GDPR? Excellent question. I actually asked this myself because I was wondering about the same thing. How would the companies know which country you're coming from? Coming from Africa, you wouldn't be a European citizen. The answer was this: when you use a VPN, they treat you as if you were traveling into that country. So so basically, they would treat you as a European citizen, as far as I know. Like, for example, I posed the same questions with the LA Times, because as a European I can't get on their news site, or I can't see their news at all. So basically, if I use a VPN in the US, then they don't have to care about GDPR, because they treat me as if I was a US citizen, and they're right to do so. That's my understanding anyway. Maybe somebody can correct if I'm wrong, but I think this is really the way it is. Okay, somebody has many questions, and I would love to hear all of them. Just please keep asking. We got all this time really for me to answer your questions about this course, about the GDPR, and if you've had difficulties in signing on to the course. So, okay, what is an individual's perception about GDPR living in Europe? So I live in Europe. This is being transmitted from Finland. So I think GDPR is great, actually. It's a great effort for citizens to get back rights to their own data, and we really needed that, so that the companies would actually be a little scared of violating our rights. Previously, they wouldn't have really paid fines about the violations unless they were like really massive. But now even some of the smaller violations can really be fined on if they don't sort of do anything about the problem or their negligence. But yeah, if you have more questions, just keep asking. I'll try to answer all of them. Okay, looking at the poll so far, it looks like 1 out of the 2 people couldn't log in LiveLearn. So if you could at all explain your issue in the Slido questions, I'll try to solve that issue, and so you'd be able to use the course. I was asked if I can talk about MyData. A little bit. I'm not really the expert on that, but there is an actual module in MyData, and it's really about the philosophy of people owning rights to their data, and being able to use it in different services, as well as like taking it off some services. Even now, it's still more of a philosophy than actual applications, but I think it's a good framework for people controlling their own data, and it's spreading as well. They translated the white paper in Portuguese in Brazil by Luca Belli, and they've already had at least 2 MyData conferences in Japan. They also founded MyData Global in November or end of October. But anyway, they actually founded a global organization that anyone is able to join in, and really the goal of that organization is to make MyData relevant for even bigger organizations and governments to start thinking about data in that way. There are already some applications, and there are, like, for example, these kind of data brokers where you could control all kinds of aspects of the data that you have in different services. Okay, there's another question. Last year we had a digital security workshop in Arusha. We realized GDPR protects Europeans, not Africans, due to context and digital lawsuits against activists. Okay, I assume Arusha is in Africa. I haven't heard of this city before. So yes, GDPR really protects Europeans, people who are in Europe, as well as European citizens. But I would disagree that GDPR doesn't protect anyone else, because it's the way it's set up. Like, for example, all the big news sites are actually GDPR compliant. Well, at least they should be, unless they're blocking the view like LA Times does. But the ones that let Europeans into their news site, I think that's really, I think for a lot of those news sites, it makes sense to give that same level of protection to everybody. So you can see GDPR for European citizens is actually benefiting citizens everywhere in the world in that sense, because the companies actually had to make the process of answering data requests and to be able to locate the data that people were asking for. That's really now all the work done for people everywhere. So I think it's been effective to everyone in that way. Okay, another good question. So what digital person know about GDPR? People use the internet on a daily basis, and recent growth has been seen in online shopping. How can one know his or her data? Excellent question. They can't really, apart from doing a little research of their own. So first of all, this course, the DigiRights course, teaches you how to find the information that the company has of you, and they really have to spell it out in their privacy notice, for example. You can usually find that at the bottom of the website. So you get the idea, or at least some categories of data, the kind of data that they have. But to really know what they have of you, you should make a proper data request to them. This course teaches you how to do that. It's basically, you can find out all the kinds of categories that they profile you with, all like for how long they keep the information, like the retention, and how who they got the data from, if they didn't get it from you, and also who they've shared it with. For all these questions, you just need to send one A4 template that we've already prepared for you, and you need to just fill in your own details, like your address, name, and so on, and send it away, and then you can expect to get an answer within a month. And even if you're not European, I would still try to send that data request anyway. They might be excused from answering, but I think it's still, with the template we've done, it's really quite effortless. You should be able to do it in about 5 to 15 minutes. So I think it's worth it, and it'd be good to test as well if they are answering to people outside Europe. I think they would, because they've had to create that process for the Europeans already. Okay, somebody is saying that the chat room is with limited words, and it's hard to make a question small, and it takes time. Well, you have 1,000 characters, so I think you can ask most questions with that amount of characters. But if you can't fit it all in one, just write question after the other, and just make a mark so that I know that they are a continuum. The reason why we're muting the other participants is really sort of to keep the transmission good. as well as sort of the sound proper. There's less interference and so on. But I'd be really happy to answer these questions here. So if there was a person who wasn't able to log in the course material in LifeLearn and would like to, I'd be very glad to help. I could even go through the process right here, right now. If that's what you want. It's important for us and all the citizens that as many as possible get on this course, so we know about our rights and we can exercise. I mean, GDPR is a great law, but if nobody is exercising their rights, it's not really that good for us. And the more data requests and sort of if people spot many violations of their rights and complain to their country's data protection authority, we can make cases against organizations that aren't complying, and I think that's really important, because the GDPR is a very big law, so it still needs a lot of those precedents to happen. So it's important for the data protection authority to get some data on how those rights are being violated. Okay, so cryptocurrency is rising faster than normal. How does GDPR protect user data? Where does data stored and protected? Mass surveillance is going on. Are we safe? Well, these are big questions. So I think with the cryptocurrency, it's really quite tricky. If you have information, let's say personal information in the blockchain, it's really irremovable. That's one of the very few bad things about blockchain. Like, for example, I've heard that people put links to child porn there, and there is no way to remove them, because that's actually one of the blockchain's features, that these things are immovable. So I don't know if this where does data stored and protected? So I presume you're still talking about the blockchain that is used for cryptocurrencies, and this data is really stored in thousands and thousands of computers all around the world. All the miners and people who have the copy of the blockchain on their computer. And comes to mass surveillance, I think if mass surveillance is happening, nobody is safe. Mass surveillance is very dangerous. But that's slightly getting off the topic here. Okay, so looking at the digital gap in between teachers and students, what do I think about GDPR and education and in school? That's quite a question. Okay, well, I can think of something like, for example, GDPR forces organizations to remove the data, like personal data, after it's no longer necessary. And for example, a school could remove the information on grades after a certain period. That is probably not, or at least in Finland, I think they actually store that for quite a while. But yeah, this is a difficult one. Like for me, it's hard to think about it, because pretty much all the schools in Finland are public schools. Not like public schools in UK where they are actually private. But so here, I think they would really sort of have some of the rights that some of the government agencies have, which is a little more than like they have more exemptions to GDPR than regular organizations. Okay, there's a question about social awareness about GDPR. Well, I think pretty much everyone has heard about it, but I think most of the citizens don't really know what their rights are. I think they might know about an aspect or two, but not really everything that they have the right to. Like, for example, before I started creating this course, I didn't know that in the GDPR there's a right to deny automated processing on you. Like when decisions are made solely on like based on algorithms, and you can actually ask how those decisions affect you. For example, how significant are they? These kind of questions. I think these kind of questions would be very interesting to ask from, let's say, an insurance company that has your insurance policy. But it's really like in the modules 4 and 5, they are really taught how to make these different types of data requests, but all of them should really start from the first one, which is basically you're trying to map out what data they have of you. And after that, it's much easier to make these subsequent requests of what you want that organization to do with that data from then on. But yeah, to really control your data, you do have to see or like do a little work for it. But when you do, and if you do it for like while you're in this course, which can be anytime in the next 5 years, it is really useful for us to have that feedback on the data requests that you made. So we actually get more data, like collective data about data requests, how hard they are to make, and like what kind of answers the organizations give to them. So it's really useful. I highly recommend it making it. I guess our course material is awesome. Nobody has criticized it at all, nor even have any questions about it. So it must be very self-explanatory. I'm very glad about that. But if you do spot something, please tell us. That way we can develop the material, and it will be as good as it can get for the next 5 years. We're also planning to roll this out in some schools and universities here, maybe elsewhere in Europe as well. But yeah, it's really the data or the feedback on the data requests especially is, I would think, is the most useful part of this course. Please keep the questions coming. I'll be happy to answer them. And if I can't, I'll be looking for an answer. If you don't ask questions, I'll be bound to repeat myself. So it'd be nice if you asked questions. What you thought of the course, or what's puzzling about GDPR. I'm not pretending to know everything about GDPR, but I'll be interested in also in looking for answers if you got some tough ones. Okay, there was a request at the end of the course. You would like to see a certificate of participation, and which would allow you to use the information to coach others. Unfortunately, we can't send everyone certificates. Starting from we have anonymous users as well. We couldn't know who to send them to, even if they passed with flying colors. And also, it's really this project is nearing its end, pretty much at the end of February. But that is really only the beginning for people to use this course as they wish. It's the whole course is made with Creative Commons 4 license, so it's really, you can even commercially exploit it. You can, if you go through the material and you know what's said there, you know how to use the material to answer questions and sort of walk people through the templates that are there. I can't see why it'd be like, it wouldn't be impossible, for example, to run your own training course to train people on the GDPR with this material, and we totally let you. We basically want this course to be used as widely as possible, and that's what we've been paid for as the project workers. So please do pass on the information in the course to others and show them how to get on it. We do have instructions for that on our Lander page, but sometimes it's much easier when there's an actual human showing you the steps through. With the course material as well, there might be some more complicated things, but we really try to iron those out because we wanted to make these rights apparent for everyone, and like how to use them. We try to use as simple language as possible as well. Even I can understand it, right? I'm not a lawyer or data protection expert, but yeah, I would say that I understand all of the material that's there. I've done 3 of the modules myself. So if you wanted the certificate for this course, you'd really have to talk to a school or university close to you where you'd want to take this course, and sort of pitch this course to them, and then you might be able to get credited by that school or university for attending or passing the course. That's really the only way I can think of it. But yeah, we are going to do this in Finland, hopefully, at the sort of end of spring, and maybe by next autumn, students in some schools in Finland would be getting credited for passing this course. So far, we have something like 270 people enrolled on the course, and there's about 100 who have been able to get on the LifeLearn platform. So I wish people will still have the patience to actually start studying the material we've made. But I admit it's been rather tricky to get on the material. But hopefully that will be a lot easier after we get the browser version out. Then you don't have to do all these tricks to get in there with your phone anonymously. Okay, I just made another poll in this sli.do/digirights address, this one here. So basically I'm asking, what was the problem in logging into LifeLearn platform? If you had a problem in logging in, perhaps you could answer it there in the poll, and we can use those answers to maybe make it easier or advise how to move forward. Okay, there was no problem in the whole process. That was amazing. Well, I can say for a fact that not everyone was quite so positive about it, including myself. But yeah, I think we've fixed the worst hurdles at least, and really hoping for that web version coming on, the one that you can access with your browser from any machine, really. Okay, so somebody's saying that I think it was better for me to send email for requesting a soft copy certificate with my complete name. Others like me are activists and the course is vital. Okay. the thing about the course material itself is really that it should be somewhat standalone. So there won't be that many people, for example, sending these certificates and sort of going through answers that people have made for the questions we have in the course. But I think that it doesn't diminish of using this course to know about your data protection rights. And I think once you yourself have gone through it, you'll be able to teach or coach this material much better. And yeah. So basically, if you really wanted to, for example, coach other people on this course, you should go through the material yourself. So it takes about 7 hours in all. So I suggest you maybe do 1 hour each day, starting today. And by the time we have our next webinar next Tuesday, you'll be able to ask any questions that you were unsure of. So I'll try to answer the questions about the material or some of the other aspects of maybe coaching this material to other people. So yeah, hopefully I can help people do that next week. It's our 4th and last webinar next week. So hopefully many of you have been able to go through the material, and you'll be able to give me some feedback on it. We got another 5 minutes left. So if you've been thinking whether you should ask that question that everybody wants to hear the answer to, go ahead, ask it. Got that 4 minutes. Yes. So it's time. There are no silly questions. I'd be happiest in answering the questions about the course itself. But if you have any general questions about GDPR, I can try to answer those as well. I do recognize that there could be a lot of hard questions that I would not know the answer to, but I can try. So just shoot. I have to say it is interesting proposal that we'd be sending some kind of a certificate for people who passed the course. I think that would actually motivate people more to go through all the material. But we'll have to think of who will be doing that, who will be evaluating all those answers to our questions. And the thing is, it's kind of hard to scale. So, I mean, this is basically available to everyone in the world. And let's say, even if we got 1,000, we'd have a few people swamped with making certificates and like going through all the answers and everything. So I guess we've really tried to keep it as lean as possible. It's really about like for self-studying. But like I said, if we manage to roll this out to schools and universities, I think it's quite likely that there will be some kind of test at the end, and giving you a pass for going through this material. So yeah, I think it could be done that way, but we really need a cooperative organization to do that. We've just really worked to put this material together. Okay, we got 1 more minute. You sure you don't want to ask that question? I think you're letting me off a little easy here. But yeah, if you go through the material, I'll hopefully see you next week, and you might have something to criticize about the material or some questions, what you didn't understand in the material. or maybe just about how to get on the system, I'll be more than glad to help. I really want to see people using this course, go through the material and learning about data protection. And I think it will benefit all of us. But I think this is it. Our time is up. So thank you, and maybe see you next week with those questions.